Hello. I'm a little bit glitchy, perhaps. All right, can you hear me? I cannot hear myself because I am in a totally different setup. I'm in the kitchen shot. I am in California. I am in LA, where the Hollis company was founded. I've come back to the roots. So please let me know if you can hear my voice. I see that it's coming through, but if it's echoey or something, maybe hello? Can you hear me? Maybe? I don't know. Let me know. Sorry about the timing and stuff. It's been, I missed a phone call this morning from a work, non-YouTube related work thing. So it's 3 hours difference of what I'm used to. So I'm all over the place. And there's been, airport pickups and driving, and it's been quite something. So sounds good. Perfect. Thank you. Yeah, I know. I'm just at home. I'm just lying to everybody. This is my new grift. Pretend traveling. So got into California last morn. And yes, I'm in LA. This is LA. And I'm going to be here for a week, and we're going to go to San Diego, and yeah, that's basically the trip. We're going to TwitchCon. I mentioned this on Cringefluencers, but I haven't said it here. There's this thing called TwitchCon, which is like the conference of all conferences, apparently, for people who live stream. Now, that's not necessarily why I'm going. I'm going to experience it. I've never been on Twitch like a second in my life. But my boyfriend, my boo thing, he really likes Twitch as a user, and so he's going to TwitchCon, and I'm tagging along and to learn about stuff. So that's the trip. But we're visiting one friend in LA first because I've never been. So yeah, let's go to the wing store. Where's the closest wing store in LA? Other sad thing, I only have a couple sound bites, but I have a new one because I don't have my whole box that I usually use, so they'll be sort of limited today.
I'm a big time hippie. I'm very woo woo.
Hold on, let me play it again. But here's a new one.
I'm a big time hippie, and I'm very woo woo.
I'm very woo woo. Rachel, if you find the nearest wing store, I will consider it. No, wing store. It has to specifically say wing store. Otherwise, I'm out. Anyways, I'm going to Con. No, not really Con. I'm going to CringeCon. No, TwitchCon, sorry. But I just heard there's some late breaking news about our girl Rach. Apparently she just released like a banger of a podcast. So I also want to talk about that too, because I have not listened to it. I literally woke up like an hour ago, had to go drop off who we're staying with at their job, came back, and then I got a DM that was like, you should check this out. So we're also going to talk about that. But first, I figured we should at least address Rach Talk Live. Now, I want to also say, and here's Reddit. We're going to go through Reddit because it's the easiest way to do this. I was supposed to go to Rach Talk, Alabama, Birmingham. However, Mr. Hurricane, Mr. Ian, interrupted my plans and literally canceled my flight. So I was supposed to be there, have already covered it, vlogged it, did the whole shebang. My friend lives there. She was going to be in on it with me. She actually said that she's like, I will probably like it because that's kind of her thing. It's like self-help stuff. But she was still going to come with me and support. So basically that got screwed up because my flight got canceled. But I got to keep my credit. So there may be a chance. There's still a lot of dates left. And I have a lot of free time. So the plan is to go to one of them. But, you know, we'll see how it goes. I'm not going to say which one because I don't want to alert the team as to like where and why and how I'm going to be somewhere. So that was my thoughts on that. But so far, I haven't seen exactly how many people have been in the crowd. There haven't been a lot of, I'm just trying to find the right ones. There hasn't been a ton of social media presence for these Rach Talk Live in-person events. Someone speculated that it was about 150 in Birmingham. But the thing that really is sort of surprising, I guess, or not surprising perhaps at this point, is like the stage setup is so very basic, as I guess you could call it. I said it's giving school assembly vibes. Now, if you remember too, Alabama, the Birmingham location was downgraded, and I didn't say anything because I didn't want anyone to know specifically that I was going to Alabama, but they sent me an email like, I don't know, like 2 days or 3 days before they had changed venues and said, it's so funny, had said, sorry, here's a whole different location you have to go to for the event, with no change in price or anything. And here's another shot of it. I also, just for the record, I spent $120 that I didn't get to use, that I gave to Rachel Hollis for no reason. I spent $120 on 2 regular tickets for the Birmingham event. Now, I don't know how it got up that high because tickets were supposed to be like $30, and I don't know how $60 for 2 tickets turns into $120, but that's what happened. Here's a shot of, it's a very blurry shot, but here's a look at Birmingham. So not super exciting. This is her outfit. It's a little interesting. She's got the high rise and the hippie shirt, I guess. I think that's a shirt that I would wear, to be honest. Honestly, that's an outfit that I would wear, but I also don't think I have any fashion sense. So, okay, here's the one that I was like, damn, that is a fall from where Rise used to be. So there's the DJ. We've talked about the DJ before, DJ Hassan. He just had a simple black draped, like a black cloth draped table. Rachel stood on stage with literally not even a sign of anything and talked on stage for 2 hours and then left. So, you know, I don't think that's $120 worth for moi, unless I really love the person. I mean, you get to be really close to her if that's like your thing. But yeah, I know that was another thing too. I was like, I don't want to get that close where she could see my face. So I did not want to buy VIP. I thought that would be too much, like too ridiculous in the sense of like, I don't want to take a picture with her and make her feel uncomfortable, or, you know, she literally blocked me on Instagram, or her team did. So I'm not trying to make anyone, you know, feel unsafe. That's never my intention. I just want to be there to observe and to experience like an in-person event with her, because I never have before. So that's what it's, you know, all about. There's a person on Reddit who wrote like a little review and said that, you know, she talked about, well, I heard a clip, and one of the clips was she told the panic attack story. And Rachel also shared in advance, like, oh, I'm working on the script for tour. I'm doing tour, guys. And she put like a little like journal entry page. It should be here. Oh yeah, here it is. And like twice on the page, it says, tell panic attack story, tell panic attack story. Because underneath the text, you can see it says, well, I don't know if you can see it, but twice it says panic attack story, panic attack story. So I saw a clip from it where she was telling the panic attack story. So not only did she, so it's the same exact story as she told to Lisa Bilyeu that we already watched on stream, the 2-parter. Oop, that's my description. That's my cheat code, guys, so I could copy and paste. And so she told the panic attack story, and she talked about Paul McCartney, and she apparently said that okay, so here, let me just recap it. She apparently said, she's like, okay, I had floor seats to Paul McCartney. Okay, humble brag there. I had, you know, the best seats, such good seats. We couldn't wait to see Paul McCartney. So exciting. Oh, God. Hello, me twice. And let me keep finding it. And then she was going to pee her pants because she was so excited to see Paul McCartney. Okay, typical. And then she said, I guess she told the rest of the panic attack story that she had said before, where she was like, oh, I, you know, put my face on the ground, and here's her tour. This is what I basically wear to the airport also. So I can't even, like, I think this is a cute outfit. I'm not going to lie. But she's like, my boyfriend's pants. Anyways, so then she said, she had her panic attack. She was laying on the ground. And then apparently, now this is coming from the person who was allegedly there. They said that her boothing had to be really mean to her for her to get up off of the floor of the venue in which she was having this panic attack. And she was so grateful that, that he was mean to her, because it made sure that she would listen and get up. So the lesson is like, people being mean to you could be a good thing. But anyways, that's that. And she also said she didn't just only pee her pants. Allegedly, she also pooped in the bathroom, thankfully. But she insinuated that she took a large poop. Why we need to know that, we don't. But that was coming from the person who says they were there in regards to that story. And she said basically every story she had heard was fairly reused. Like there was nothing new that she said, other than that one of her sons got suspended from school. That was the only thing that I had not heard before. So then that was Alabama. And then the next one was Charleston. So apparently they had to drive because, very similar to me, can't figure out the time zone changes. So her and her team drove. Hold on, I'll pull that up too. Funny story, they had to drive to Charleston. And that venue looked probably even not, well, I could say worse, perhaps less filled if possible. Hold on. Can you hear that? Oh no, you probably can't.
Good word.
We didn't realize that the time changed. So even though there are flights to Charleston, guess who's driving to Charleston from Birmingham?
We are.
Woo,
We
6.5 hours.
Road trip.
Here we go.
Okay, so that was that. Sorry, you couldn't hear the beginning. There's nothing exciting in the beginning anyways. So they had a drive. So also she posted a photo of like the crew. So we can finally see Jack face reveal if you wanted to see it. We already saw Hassan before because he was in a podcast. I can't even talk about Heidi right now. She's so unbelievable. Let's stick to Rachel for now before I have an aneurysm. Okay, so there's Jack Noble, the video guy, and then we have Rachel's sister, the DJ, and Rachel's cousin or niece or something. We can tell because the names are all, she tagged the names, so that's on her. But there's a look at the big crew, the big Rachel Hollis live talk tour crew. And no shame, really. I mean, use your family, use them, whatever, but stop giving advice about how, you're a huge entrepreneur, because this seems like people who are lending you a favor as opposed to people who are working for you and you're like leading the charge.
You are with us.
Okay, here's another clip. This one's from Charleston. Now, instead of the other outfit with the boho, she's kind of like, I'm going to be mean for a second, and I have no fashion sense. So as I wear the 15th Nike shirt I've worn today or this week. But this is more of like green on green, it looks like mechanic style. So she's going to talk about like the haters in a second, sort of like, oh, if you don't like me, I don't care kind of thing. Here we go.
That means that while you are with us, you're just going to open your heart and your head to the conversation that we're having. You can get in the car when you leave here and talk as much crap as you want about me and Hassan and my hair and like the food baby that's going on right now. Like, talk about it all when you leave. But if you're already predetermining that things aren't going to be for you, you'll miss stuff. And maybe why you're here tonight is not for me. Maybe you're here because you're going to make a connection that becomes a lifelong friend, that becomes a mastermind buddy, that becomes your next business partner or your hype squad. I don't know, but I know that you will be able to achieve that if you're present in this room, if you're present where your feet are, and you go all in. So if you're willing to go all in, can you say, yes, I will? Yes, I will! I love this. I love this. I'll also recommend that we continue to hydrate. This is filled to the top with vodka. So
why are we cheering for that in 2022? So I don't know how much of you can hear that, because I can't hear the feedback. So sorry if that was low. I know I've already said this a million times, but she's like, my bottle's filled to the top with vodka. As someone who has said, she's an alcoholic and she's struggled with alcohol, and her ex-husband has had issues with alcohol, I just think the jokes about alcohol, like, let's just wrap that up quickly, So, and yeah, that is the background. There is none. It's very, very, very stark. Now, I think maybe, let me see if I have anything more on here about that. But it looks like, and those two are the venue. Okay, actually here. Whoop. Can you see that? That's actually, I'll just send it to you. Oh, hold on, I'll send it to you. I'll send it to myself. This was the second venue that got changed. So this was much bigger, and then they downsized it to accommodate the actual tickets sold. So there's still quite a lot of seats empty, despite them downsizing. But again, like, none of the official accounts have like acknowledged that there is any hold on, did it not go through? They haven't acknowledged that it they haven't shown the back of the room for some reason, and I think that some reason is because it's not full whatsoever. Hold on, I'm looking for the photo just so you can see a better view of it. It went through my airdrop. Show a picture of myself as a teenager. Okay, wait, here it is. So this is the the Charleston. So, this is presumably the back if someone's standing up and taking this photo without being a total asshole and blocking everybody. It looks like, like a little church service or something, and very stark background. No Rach Talk Live, neon sign. That's what she said she was gonna. Remember they were teasing this as like the event. They're like, oh, we're gonna have the neon sign's gonna be there. Jack's gonna bring it with us, and then Jack had broken the sign. But I don't think they brought the sign because they now changed the whole marketing to like, this is a rise that you can afford type thing. So I don't know. That's what it changed to. So if you're going, expect like very much like one woman show, Rachel Hollis, the Rachel Hollis story, I think is what it's giving me. It's giving one man band, which is what I do. Okay, but I want to get to the real meat of the day, and I do have some limited time, so I'm gonna try to just get to it. And I want to go to the newest stuff because why not? Let's go for it, especially with this fucking title, the covert passive aggressive narcissist. Now, this is what I consider my mother to be, and probably honestly, I don't know Rachel personally enough to label her as anything, and I'm also not a professional, but it's surprising that she would label someone else this. Meanwhile, I think she's got some qualities. So I'm reading your comments. Yes. No. The text was added on by whoever posted it, which was like someone who was there at the thing. Heidi is just nothing more than usual, but she's just this panic attack episode she did with Dave just really rubbed me the wrong way. So hopefully we'll get time to talk about it too. Thank you, JB. Thank you very much. To help you buy your next ticket for tour. Thank you. I appreciate that. And for that, here's the new soundbite.
I'm a big time hippie and I'm very woo woo.
She's a big time hippie and she's very woo woo. And here's also me. I was not able to go to Rach Talk Live because of the hurricane, and I won't be able to change my life now through the power of women friendships at a one-time event for 2 hours. So pray for me. Okay, here we go. This is going to be a live reaction. Thank you, JB. I really appreciate it. And we're going to see what happens. We're going to experience this together. So onwards. Wait.
Hey guys, it's Rach. Welcome to another episode of the show. And today we're talking about narcissism and narcissistic disorder. This was a term that I really saw become very popular.
Okay. I don't think she's qualified to talk about the actual disorder, but all right, go on, Queen.
On TikTok. I saw it a lot during COVID and in a lot of different videos. And I think there's just a lot more information about what this is like and what it's like to suffer with it yourself, what it's like to have a partner or a parent or a boss who has narcissistic tendencies. I wanted to take a deeper dive because I knew it was something y'all were interested in. And in my studies and my learning, I discovered this book that I thought was so incredible. And its author, Debbie Mirza, is my guest today. We are talking about passive-aggressive covert narcissism. Maybe a type of disorder you haven't heard about before, but I think you're going to find it really interesting. The one note I will give you before we jump into this episode is we started geeking out so much and talking so fast that there is a point where she's making a list of the signs of a narcissist. And we got so excited about the conversation that I don't think she says more than 2 of them. I'm going to sneak in at that point and just read out the other signs and symptoms so you guys will know what they are. So if you were listening to this and you were like, why did they not finish the list? It was just because we got too excited chatting and we forgot to come back to it. But I got you. Don't worry about it. I really hope that you guys enjoy this conversation as much as I do. I think this is going to be a really popular episode. I think y'all are going to have a lot of follow-up questions for Debbie. And I really encourage you to call the hotline and let us know what you think. We'll do a follow-up.
I hope she explains what Debbie's credentials are, because if it's like Debbie who wrote a book about what she thinks covert narcissism is, like I don't care which Debbie random person thinks.
And take a deeper dive. But this is our introductory conversation about narcissistic disorder. Hi.
And also, what the fuck is this about? Like, I'm all about hearing about narcissistic personality disorder and what happens, but like,
Therapy working.
how does this make sense for Rachel Hollis' podcast? All right, whatever. Keeping an open mind.
When it comes to
Oh wait, I'm going a little. It's already. Well, it sounds normal speed, so that's at 1.2. I think you could still fast forward if you wanted to, or quicken the pace. Okay, I'm gonna leave it.
this idea of narcissism, I was telling you before we started, I started to see this word pop up a ton for
Hold on, let me switch it to 1 actually, so it's not. This is how she really sounds.
kind of the first time ever. Like I had known that word, and I think I knew it in terms of people would say like, oh, that person's acting narcissistic, but I never really knew it as a true personality disorder that can be really detrimental to other people. So could you, for those who are listening who are like me and maybe don't truly understand what narcissism is?
Okay, not to make this like a sad thing, but her brother had, according to her, schizophrenia, and she's talked about how often like his choices affected her life because of his schizophrenia and him not able to take his medication, and what he ultimately ended up doing bothered her obviously and caused her so much trauma obviously. But she's like, I never thought about mental illness affecting other people before. It's like, okay, maybe you should think about that a little bit more deeply, Rachel.
Could you walk us through how that person might behave?
Yeah, definitely. And it is misused a lot. And people who have truly been through narcissistic personality disorder abuse.
And also, she said her name again, the name, but what's her credentials? The woman who's
When
talking here.
someone throws around the word, she's really narcissistic, he's really narcissistic, it can diminish the actual trauma and pain that you actually do go through when it's legit NPD. So yeah, narcissism.
Thank you. Chels Marie, thank you so much. Fran Kitty wishes Taro could have gone to Cali. I want her to go. It was so hard to leave Taro, I'm not gonna lie. I was like petting her belly when we were getting ready for the airport. I was like, damn, this sucks. I mean, she's in good hands. She'll have fun. Our neighbor comes over and takes care of her, and she can stay in the house that she loves and still prance around the yard and stuff. So she's happy, but she doesn't travel very well. We got to figure out how to get her back to better traveling so she can come on trips, because I would love her just to be everywhere with me at all times. So
Get a life.
get a life, me.
Unfollow me.
There's my 2.
But also,
I have a limited amount of sound bites, so that's for you, Chels Marie. Thank you very much. Okay, I'm going to also look up who this person is in the meantime.
Is thrown around. I think mostly with the connotation, they're just really selfish. They're just all into themselves. They're really self-focused. Narcissistic personality disorder has traits in the DSM. So there's 9 traits in the DSM, which is like the go-to, the Bible for therapists.
Okay.
Or there's different clusters like personality disorders, and this is under the cluster B. I think I'm right about that.
Yeah, I feel like I remember that too.
Yeah, where it's narcissistic personality disorder, antisocial, which used to be sociopath, and then psychopath, like all those kind of things. Not situations where you need medication.
Got it.
These are personality disorders. And so narcissistic personality disorder, there's 9 traits, and you have to meet at least 5 to be diagnosed as having narcissistic personality disorder. And they're rarely labeled, or they're hard to, they won't go to therapy.
Right.
Unless they're.
Yeah, I'm trying to look up who this person is again. Deborah, whatever. I'm looking for the book that she had mentioned too. It sort of throws me off that she would say, I think it's called the DSM, or I think it's called this and that. I'm sort of, okay, wait. It could be this person. It could be, because this is, but I don't know. I'm going to continue looking. Let's see. Sorry. Keep going.
that's another
That's
story.
a whole other thing, right?
Seems
That's a
little
whole nother
sus.
thing. But if it's like a standard overt narcissist, they're not going to go to therapy because they don't see anything as their problem. It's always other people's problems.
Right.
So you have, and if you want, I actually have the 9 in
I
front
would
of
love
me.
that. I would love for us to unpack those.
Okay, cool. Perfect. So I'll read the 9, and then in order to be classified as NPD, you have to have at least 5. So 1 is a grandiose sense of self.
What would that look like? So let's unpack each of those. Grandiose sense of self.
Right.
Is you really
The way this conversation is set up, though, already, like, it's like two people. One may or may not be qualified based on what she's presented as, like, her credentials, which are, if she said them so fast I didn't even hear them. And then it's like, oh, what does this have to do with me? I don't know. I just really want to talk about what a person with narcissistic personality disorder might have. Okay. It's just very weird. Deborah Mirza. Okay. She has a page. Okay. Thank you, everybody. I'm going to keep playing it. I'm going to look.
think a lot of yourself?
Yeah. So grandiose sense of self, when we think of, and again, and we'll get into like covert, the standard when people think of someone who's narcissistic, they are usually flashy, and out there. And when people are other people are rolling their eyes. So it's like, this guy's ridiculous.
Right.
Or this girl's ridiculous, and they're clearly all about themselves. So grandiose sense of self is not like a healthy self-image. It's like I am better than you. I am what matters no matter what. I don't care who I have to run over to get to the top.
This is Rachel. Rachel, this is not good to bring up and remind your audience. This is exactly you. Do you remember not saying, I will do anything to get to the top of the mountain publicly again and again just to get there? I don't care. That's you, babe.
I am what matters.
Mm-hmm.
So that's like
That's
grandiose sense of self. If this is like a covert, which do you want to talk about that now?
Yeah, that way we can sort of go back and forth. But let's establish this. So there is like what we've commonly come to know as this is narcissistic personality disorder. But then your book, which I found so fascinating, was the idea that there are people who are narcissistic, but they cover it up because they know they would be judged if anyone understood that this was their true state. So,
okay, something to say about that as well. But first, thank you to JB. JB says energies in R's voice equals Debbie, please describe Dave. Yeah, that's what it sounds like. Like, I need to be forgiven for my sins in this relationship, and I need to do that by any means necessary. So now we're going to talk about what I think Dave's disorder is. Because why the fuck else are we talking about this? So I think that's sort of interesting, I'll say, at the least, and sort of inappropriate at the other side of it.
I'm a big time hippie and I'm very woo woo.
And I'm still looking for this person's credentials. I am not seeing it so far. And Kimberly Coste, thank you. Kimberly says, no time for comments because I'm working, but working to slowly buy you a boat, Kia and Tara. But also, is she the narcissist? She is the overt narcissist, according to what she's just talking about there. Like, grandiose, will push anyone down to get what she wants, will, thinks that they're she literally has, 12 sources of platform, podcast, YouTube channel, live in concert, books where she talks about herself. Come on. If we're talking about narcissism here, you got it, honey. I shouldn't say that. I need to stop with the come downs. But girl, I'll stick with girl. Girl, you got narcissism. And I'm not saying it's disordered narcissism, but you got narcissism. And I think for success where you're selling your personal brand, you have to have a little bit of it. And I think Rachel has a lot of it. So thank you, Kimberly.
Get a life.
I don't know if you can hear that. So, and this person wrote all these books, and I don't see a MD next to it. I don't see a psychologist. This is just one woman's take. Oh, she's a songwriter. Okay. Jesus. Deborah is an author, speaker, singer. This is like Rachel, basically. So is Rachel going to come out with a narcissistic book next? She's passionate about having people heal after narcissistic abuse. How? All I see is she has a YouTube. She's a big fan of dolphins and Nutella. come on. Okay, I'm going to keep looking. Debbie is a trained life coach. Stop it. She's been interviewed on several podcasts and online conferences. She uses her own life experience. What education and research? She created an online course. During her own healing, she went through a time of much isolation. She named the CD Soul Rising. It's nothing. Okay, there is literally nothing. Music. Maybe her music is curing. Okay, I'm sorry. Like I said, I think my mom is a covert narcissist. I'm not going to write a book about how to heal from being a covert narcissist. So this is already something I find very sketchy. All right, back to it.
Sort of hide it. And what would be the difference there? Like, they wouldn't have a grandiose sense of self?
They're, I would say, craftier and in some ways more intelligent than the overt narcissists. They know how to work people. Their biggest thing is their reputation. So they want to be looked at. They won't be the overt that's up on the stage talking about how great they are. Sometimes
that's you, Rachel. That's not Dave. Dave is the secret narcissist who's actually worse than you, apparently.
Even be shy.
And also, from my understanding, which is nothing because I'm not a trained professional either, but my understanding is, at least from my mom's experience, it's not that they know they're fucking narcissistic. They just are because it's a defense mechanism for childhood trauma. So they choose to act this way because it's like a coping mechanism. It just ends up hurting other people. It's not that they're like, I'm going to be a narcissist today. I'm just going to hide it deep down so people don't think bad about me. It's like, I think it's more unintentional than we like to think. That's my take on it as a know-nothing person.
Sometimes they'll be therapists themselves. Sometimes they'll be coaching, pastors, rabbis, spiritual gurus. They're in positions often that you wouldn't think this would be a narcissistic person that's leading this yoga retreat.
Right. Right.
Yes, you would.
And so they're usually well-liked. They're usually quite smooth. Sometimes they're quiet. Sometimes they're not, but they're not, people don't roll their eyes. People follow them. They're usually likable.
Yeah.
So they have a grandiose sense of self, but it's in a way where you don't notice it. Like, take the yoga leader at a retreat, they won't stand up and talk about how great they are, but they will put themselves ahead of everybody else. They will situate themselves and talk to you in ways that is demeaning, that puts you below them, but often in maybe spiritual terms in this situation. So you don't even.
Rachel, is she trying to out herself, literally? Is she literally trying to out herself? Like, hey, guys, well, maybe this is like her excuse. Like, I have narcissistic personality disorder. I was born with it. I can't help it. Therefore, don't blame me for the way I act. Maybe that's what this is. Maybe it's not a Dave thing. Because everything that she's described thus far has been associated with herself. Like, she literally is like up on a stage saying how good she is. I mean, that, again, is Rachel. Thanks, Duma. Welcome. Okay, here's this person. Again, author, restorative coach, which means nothing. Singer-songwriter, okay, at Debbie Mirza Coaching LLC. Red flag, okay. Boulder, Colorado, okay. She's a self-employed, intuitive life coach. Thanks, Marcus. So not only is she a life coach that knows everything, how to help your life, she's intuitive, which means she can also predict the future, allegedly, because that's something that's real. Emily Potter, thank you so much. Let me see. I'm looking for your comment. Oh, super sticker. Hey, thank you. And for that, I say the only one I have. Ding. Thank you. Actually, one more. Thank you, Emily. Okay, so I'm totally convinced that this lady knows nothing special. She's just giving her own opinion. Great.
Notice that's actually what they're doing.
Right. And when it comes to covert narcissists, as I was reading this book, and this is why I want to have this conversation, because I thought, oh, this is such an interesting way to look at narcissism, because you start off the book talking about how hard this is to diagnose unless you have lived through it, and then you're reading it thinking like, oh, that, right? You were like, in the book, you talk about this idea that most of the time the partner or the child of someone who has this, or maybe your boss is this way, that you have been trying to figure out, like, what is this person's deal? And maybe you even looked up narcissistic personality traits, but none of them quite fit, because you were like, wait, no, that's not. So the interesting thing about this is the covert nature of it.
Yeah, the intuitive word, because the other lady she has on, the Kimberly, who I've spoken about a lot lately, who took the lessons of Teal Swan and is now, practicing her own version of Teal Swan's bullshit, and like intuitive. Basically, intuitive, from my understanding in this world, means they can just say, like, I know more than you, because I have some sort of access to the other side, to dead people, to God, to whatever. And so it gives them a leg up over someone who's just like a regular person, like you and I, or at least myself. I don't claim to have any sort of special knowledge from beyond. So adding that intuitive, you could say, I know that you had trauma when you were 7. I feel it in my bones. And now you have to come up with like, oh, yes, I guess I did type thing. So... okay, let's see. Let's continue.
Means that as the person who has dealt with it, you feel like you're crazy.
Completely. There's so much gaslighting. It's so confusing because, like, for instance, someone can be raised by a covert narcissistic mom and have absolutely no idea until often they don't realize till their 30s. For some reason, that seems to be a common time to realize it.
True.
Yeah, I interviewed over 100 people for the book because I wanted to be really accurate and get all types of relationships. So this one woman I spoke to, she was best friends with her mom. For years, she thought her mom hung the moon. Like, she thought she was amazing. Everyone else thought she was.
That's because I have so much to say about this, but I'll let it go for a second.
Amazing. Like head of the PTA, all this stuff. Always like brought snacks for all the kids and had these grandiose Christmases and birthdays, but she didn't notice everything was about the mom, and that, kind of like, as long as you toe the line with these kind of parents, you're kind of okay. You don't really notice abusive behavior until in fact, covert narcissistic parents can actually seem like really good parents when the kids are young, because that's at the stage where kids are like, mommy, daddy, like so excited to see you when you come home, or
adoring.
They see you.
Yeah.
They're so adoring. Yeah. Thank you. But as soon as the kids start having their own opinions and they have their own tastes and they don't actually want to watch that movie with you, or they don't really want to do this, go to that park with you, then things change with the covert narcissist, because the people they're around are their supply.
I don't disagree with anything she's saying from my own personal anecdote. I agree. Like, what she's saying is like true, but in my opinion, in my experience, I'm like, yeah. But who the fuck are you, lady, to say any of this? You're a woman who experienced narcissistic, again, like, how can you give advice to anyone else? Like, other than, hey, this is what I went through. Again, we're talking about, this is what narcissists look like. This is what covert narcissists look like. Says you in your own life experience. So how are you able to help? You talk to 100 people, 100 what? Like 100 from where? From when? From what time? Like, who are you? This is why you can't listen to anything on the internet, because once you dig 2 seconds in, oh, now she's a psychic. Okay, that changes things for me.
It's a very bizarre thing about covert narcissists, that there's a lot of nuances that you wouldn't think about. But one is they're quite like empty people. There's something about them that when you really take an honest look at them, they're boring. Like, there's not a lot to them.
Yeah.
There's not a lot of depth. I remember sitting in a room where I was with a covert narcissist at the time, and it was someone's birthday, and we were all sitting in a circle, and I was looking around. This is when I was like starting to notice things I hadn't before. And I looked around at each person in the circle and I thought, yep, that's Jim. Yep, that's Steve. Yep, that's Mary. Like, you know, you can look at people and get a sense of who they are. They're this whole person, you know who this is. And then I got to the covert narcissist. I was like, wow, I can't, like, who are you?
Right. Yeah. My dad used to
know?
always say, there's no there about some people.
Yeah,
Like when you really took the artifice away, there was nothing substantive there. There was nothing
that's
underneath it.
right.
But if you're really good at doing the tap dance and like performing and being charming, which often
Rachel the other day literally says, I hate doing social media because it feels like a tap dance and I don't like doing it. I don't like putting myself out there, and I'm not myself and I'm forced to do it. You know, in this interview that she did with the passion project guy that she did recently, the interview, and she's like, I hate social, I just do it because I'm obligated to when I'm selling a book or something. She's like, I don't like the tap dance. Okay, now she's using the same exact term to describe a narcissist, but then I'm assuming she's not trying to put the dots together that she could be a narcissist. And again, the whole premise of this is stupid because you're bringing on a non-expert about the subject matter, so what her opinion is doesn't fucking matter. Ugh.
in this covert narcissist place, they are really good at that, then it's very hard to ever see underneath it.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, well explained. So there's kind of a hollowness, an emptiness, a blankness about them. So they,
Thank you, Kelsey.
because, and I don't know, you know, the deep reasons behind it. To me, it just feels like their soul, their spirit is just so buried, you know? And so
Oh,
to
God.
get life, they need to extract it vampire-like from other people.
Yeah, it's
That's
like an
the
energy
deepest problem.
vampire.
That's exactly it. Yeah. And so other people are their supply. That's why, back to the yoga leader at the retreat, the people who come to the retreat are their supply. So they get all this adoration, and that's like their fuel. So back to being a parent.
She's speaking as if this is something like, you know, concrete and scientific that she has studied. Like, and this is something that I get on Brene Brown for sometimes, and I think she's much, much, much better than a Rachel Hollis. I don't think there's really even a comparison because she does have, you know, research behind what she says. But sometimes my frustration with Brene is that she talks about people like kind-hearted people, like as if this different sect of humanity lives, and if we could just do the things that they do, we could enter their society and be different. But I just don't think life works like that. I feel like every person has good traits and bad traits depending on, you know, your interpretation of good and bad. There's struggles. There's times where you're a little bit more lively. There's times where you need more breaks. Like, it's not, there's no nuance to be like, you're a boring, empty person. Like, that's just not true. Even my mom, who I have so many problems with and has, you know, been the source of all of my therapy essentially, or a lot of it, working through, which I think she has narcissistic traits. She is a person of depth, and she's a good person in other ways. I think she just had a horrible childhood, which led her to protect herself and defend herself by becoming this, like, you know, I am perfect and I don't need to be changed way. But just to be like, oh, these people are disposable, essentially, is what they're saying. Like, there's nothing there, and there's nothing of value to them. It's so fucked up. And it's like, again, like, Rachel's not even hearing what she's asking because she fits a lot of these categories too. So unless I'm missing the point here, I think she's trying to lead people down a path of like, yeah, Dave is this. But in reality, it just comes off as like very mean and very unfair. Sparkling diamond from Golden Girl 7-Eleven. Thank you. And a little kitty in the picture. Aw, hi, little kitty. It makes me miss my kitty. Let's have a cry party. Taro, I hope you're doing okay. And I hope you're watching the stream right now. And I love you. And I'll see you soon. Okay, continue.
Covert narcissist, they start out, you know, really active often with their kids and really involved, but as they get older, things change, and then they start to punish their kids in, you know, the silent treatment and all the different ways that narcissists do that make you crazy, and then it makes you wonder if it's their fault, and then they put the responsibility on the kid. You know, for instance, like maybe they'll reject their son or daughter.
Yeah, this could be about Heidi too, I suppose, as well. I don't know how Rachel knows Heidi other than the internet, but yeah, I could also see Heidi. But I think that too, again, is like as a reaction to being abused potentially as a child. Like she had a lot of childhood issues from her own admission, Heidi. So it's like, is it really fair totally to just discard these people and go, well, they have no value because they're rude to me, or try to understand it? If this is like a real podcast where we're discussing things or going deeper into things, like how about at least maybe they will bring that up. I don't know. I just feel like it's like, okay, so what do we do now? Just never interact with these people? And like, who are these people? And I don't know. It's just weird.
For like ridiculous reasons. And then they're also the perpetual victim. So maybe they won't speak to them for years, but then when they talk to other people, they're like, yeah, I mean, she knows my number, or she knows
yeah.
my phone number.
Yeah.
I just wait, just no responsibility, and also really emotionally immature.
Is that a trait that is both in narcissists and covert narcissists, this idea of not taking responsibility for their actions or blaming everything on other people?
Definitely. And just to be clear.
Okay, Rachel, my team Hollis, also take a look at that also. Hear your words, Rachel. Jesus Christ. I'm sorry. I know I'm like heated because this is a very special topic to me, and it's like, don't disrespect this and make it like this, like, oh, bad person thing. It's just and just release the blame from anything. Oh God, whatever.
For people listening, like narcissistic personality disorder, it's the exact same traits for an overt narcissist and the exact same traits for covert narcissist.
Got it.
It just manifests differently.
Got it.
Mm-hmm.
So let's unpack this idea. What does it look like when someone doesn't take responsibility? Like, what are some of the conversations that you would be having with a narcissist if they weren't taking responsibility? And for all of these, I just love to give examples because it's highly likely that there are people, especially with covert narcissists, who could be listening who are like, holy crap, that's what's going on with my boss. And I never, like, that hasn't clicked in. And if they have that empowered information, can really help them.
They will often turn things around on you when it's actually their issue.
Right.
So let's say you're, with your partner or spouse, and you're suspicious that they're having an affair. You've seen things that clearly, you have that intuitive feeling. You see things that line up, so you bring it up to them, and you honestly want to know, and you're scared and you're hurting. Instead.
Thanks, Megan. Megan says, saying this in hopes that you might set up a debate with Mac over who is the worst, Rachel, Dave, or Heidi. I would love to do a collab with Mac. I sent him some stuff from MLM stuff that I'm hoping he'll talk about too, because I really like his work. He's got a different style than me, I think, like a little bit different. So I think it's cool to have two different takes on the same stuff. If I had to debate right now who's the worst, I would say, it's hard to say. There's so many nuance to it. I would say Dave. I don't know. I might change that though. But thank you. I like that. I like that idea.
Of them wanting to reassure you, which is what love would look like. Someone who truly loves you would go, oh my gosh, that's the last thing I would ever want you to think. I would never do that. I love you so much. They don't do that. Instead, they turn it around and go, what the heck? Like either they'll say, you're so sensitive. Oh my gosh, you need to like just man up, woman up, or whatever, no, of course I'm not doing that. Why would you think that? I can't believe like the stuff you put on me. I'm already stressed enough at work, and now you're putting this on me. And so they deflect,
making you the bad guy, right?
Making you the bad.
Rachel literally, when she was doing the Skinny Confidential podcast, which we just re-listened to, so I have fresh perspective on it again. She said the reason why Toiletgate happened was, number one, that she was defending women with depression, which was a straight up bold-faced lie, as Heidi would say. Okay, that's number one. Then she said, well, I was really stressed because I had become so famous and been so successful, and I had a team that I had to provide, money to, and paychecks and healthcare and 401ks. So therefore, I can't be blamed for anything that I've done because I was so stressed, and, I had a divorce, so therefore I can't be blamed. It's like, you've done all of the things literally that you're saying right now. Nothing is your fault. The Maya Angelou thing, that was your team's fault. The Toiletgate thing, that was your team's fault. Are you guys mad because I have a house cleaner? Is that why you're mad? Is that the reason why you're mad at me? Oh, people didn't like that I didn't apologize the right way. Cancel culture is so fucked up. It's like, that's your response to everything that's happened, Rachel. There's not been one moment of honest, like, look, I really fucked up and I shouldn't have done it. It was all like, yeah, I take responsibility, but and to further, defend myself, nothing was said that wasn't, put with a huge asterisk next to it. Any sorry came with, well, here's 12 excuses. So again, this fits you, Rachel.
Yeah, so then you question, you're like, oh my gosh, like, what am I doing? I mean, I don't know.
And she's on her period, and she didn't have, her chocolate bar, because all women need mommy wine and chocolate, so, okay, can't blame her because she has kids. Yeah, that's the excuse that the host gave her. Well, you have kids, so, you shouldn't be blamed for anything. It's like, empowering women is not taking the excuse of, oh, my hormones made me do it, in my opinion. I agree.
They are under a lot of stress, and I can't believe I brought that up, and I should have waited till, and so that's a tactic they'll have to put it back on you in a way that you're left spinning.
Right.
Your mind goes through and you end up feeling like, oh my gosh, how horrible of me. And then they can kind of use stuff like that in the future to deny you of compassion, to deny you of kindness, to deny you of intimacy. Because you did this.
Right.
Remember when you did this? Yeah.
Yes, you're bringing up something that happened 5 years ago, like over and over and over again. This is just like that time that you accused me of blah, blah, blah. And they've never actually just said, no, that isn't the case. Is that gaslighting in that moment? Like, can you explain to us what gaslighting is? Because I thought that was really helpful. In reading the book, I was like, oh Lord, like I remember this as a child. I think this happens to kids all the time, that like adults in their life tell them that's not what you're feeling. That's not really what happened. Yeah. So will you explain that?
Yeah, definitely. Yeah. Gaslighting is.
Will you explain that, life coach who has no technical experience? Can you explain what gaslighting is? Why don't you just explain it, Rachel? You have just as much of an opinion as this woman does. You have just as much fact as this lady does. What does she know?
A very covert way, usually, of making you think you're crazy, making you think something's wrong with you. I remember speaking to a woman who worked at this company, and her boss was a covert narcissist. And it
says who? Diagnosed, or just your fucking opinion, Debbie? Her boss was a covert narcissist. This is wrong. This whole conversation is wrong.
Her so bad, how he would turn things around on her. He was actually like really calculated, where he wouldn't tell her about meetings, or he would tell her the wrong time, and then she'd get there at what she thought was the right time, but it wasn't, and she'd be late, and he'd be like, yeah, I'm just noticing things that just kind of a little more spaciness about you, or kind of forgetfulness. So this went on for years, where she actually made an appointment with a neurologist to see if something was wrong with her brain, because she was convinced she was having memory disorders.
Wow.
And it was from this, I mean, he may have been a psychopath, but it's the same thing, but a spectrum, with narcissistic personality disorders and all these, there's a spectrum. So you can have some who are, like, I have people in my life who have narcissistic personality traits, but they're kind of lower on the spectrum. And then, so I spend time with them, but I limit my time, and I just stay away from certain topics, and then there's some people high on the spectrum where it's like, run away.
Right.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So gaslighting, then, this idea of trying to make you feel crazy, I feel like it's important to say with gaslighting that they don't even have to be consciously aware that they are gaslighting you to do it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Right? I'm assuming, all they know is that they are right. They're going to be right. And so they are trying to convince you that you are wrong, because in order for them to be right, you have to be wrong about what you're saying. And it's funny, ever since I read your book, because I'm constantly just like reading, looking obviously for people to come and chat on the show. But ever since I read your book, I noticed gaslighting.
No, I think this is someone different. I think that person's Kimberly, the energy healer. This is a life coach, an intuitive life coach who wrote a book about covert narcissism with no, from what I can tell, educational background to do so. This is just her take on what covert and narcissistic personality disorder is, based on her interview of 100 random people in which we have no idea who these people are and where she found them, and it with someone with no credentials behind it. This is just her take on what things are in the world. So we should definitely listen with open ears and just believe and have faith that this woman with no education in this field has the right stuff. Just
all
believe.
The time. I see it out in the world. I see it especially a lot with.
She likes dolphins and Nutella, so we know she's trustworthy.
Parents. Like, I'm so grateful. This has nothing to do with narcissism, but I'm so grateful that I got this explanation. I just watched this happen with a little girl. A few weeks ago, I had to go get blood drawn. And there was a little girl who was like 5, and she was getting blood drawn before me, and she was losing her mind because she's 5. She's terrified. Like, I'm 39. I don't want to have my blood taken. This little girl's freaking out, and she's screaming so loud that I could hear her screaming in the room. And I kept hearing her parents and the nurse say to her, she was like, it hurts. And they kept saying, it doesn't hurt. You're fine. It doesn't hurt. And I was like, this is not a 15-year-old. This little girl was maybe 5, and maybe it hurts, maybe it doesn't, maybe it's fear that makes her feel. But I was like, whoa, this happens at such a young age to us, which I really think sets us up to be.
Don't forget to tell her about the chocolate bar that the little girl ate that is going to force her to identify, candy as a soothing mechanism that's going to ruin her life. Don't forget to tell her that, Rachel, because that was the second part of this dumbass story. I mean, she told the story to Lisa Bilyeu already, so I'm assuming it's going to be in her next book. That's why she repeats stories 15 times to people, so you're ready for it when it's in the book. But it's like gaslighting, or is that like trying to get through a situation with a 5-year-old that can't comprehend anything? Like, maybe yes, but maybe the needle wasn't even in the girl yet, and she's like, ow, it hurts, and it's like, nothing hurts, nothing's touching you. You don't know, you weren't there, it's not your kid, shut up.
Groomed in the future by someone who knows how to do that. And they just tell you over and over, like, that's not what you're feeling, that's not what you're thinking. So that you don't even know which way's up.
Completely. Yeah. And then depending on the paradigm that you grew up with, like, let's say it was a religious situation, you get the messages that your desires are bad, your feelings are bad, or spiritual, any kind of thing. It's like, if you're complaining, it's bad. And
or also, I mean, I was raised 100% in a church that said that the man always knew better. He was the head of the household. He knew what was best. Or your parents always knew better. I feel like there's so many things, so many structures that exist, especially for women. Not that only men are narcissists, because certainly women are too. But
yeah,
there's so many things that exist for girls who later become women that are structured to make us not trust ourselves or our own intuition or what we believe. And it's very easy for those types of young women to be taken advantage of by this personality type.
100%. And something that we don't do.
And let's also say men and boys can also be the victim of someone with, narcissistic personality disorder, if that's what we're going to say here in this context, which I think is already sort of like stupid in a way, because this is not a licensed professional who can do a diagnosis. And even if you were a licensed professional, you can't do a diagnosis on someone you haven't met in person, or at least through a Zoom call face to face. Like, so all these are speculative, and maybe that person is having a bad day or has something else going on. So who's to say, like, whatever, but okay, let's pretend we're in the context of this. It's just, I don't even know what I was trying to say there. This really makes me mad because people like, she has 100 million downloads, right? And let's say we believe Rachel. If 1 million people listen to this and go, oh, let me start accusing everyone that I don't like in my life or someone who's rude to me with a narcissistic personality disorder to make me feel better about my life and my choices, that's not a good world to live in my opinion. And it just bothers me that this is just like so flippantly wrong in its essence, and in the person she's even talking to not having any credentials. It's so, she doesn't care about her audience at all. This is not going to help them necessarily. And it's just like, care about them a little bit more to bring on a fucking professional.
Across the board for both boys and girls is teach them how to be in touch, to notice their body.
That's good.
Yeah, because
your body will always know, even if you don't know,
exactly.
In your brain. Yeah, that's so good.
Like people will ask me, like, how do you safeguard yourself from covert narcissists? Because they're so tricky, because there's nothing often, especially if they're high on the spectrum, they're not people who yell at you. They won't hit you.
Your own fucking made up spectrum? Is there really a spectrum, or is this the spectrum of your own made make-believe?
They won't do anything that seems obvious in a court of law that you could say this was abuse.
Right.
And that's what makes it so painful and so confusing, because you're like, what is wrong with me? Nothing in this picture looks bad. Now that's on a high covert spectrum.
Right. And I really want to touch on that, because that was something that struck me when I was reading it, was that with these personality types from the outside looking in, because they care very much about reputation, you wouldn't know, right? Yeah. Even if you're inside, you may not know. So I just think that there's something so important about listeners understanding. Not everyone's going to get this, but I guarantee there are people who are like having crazy, holy crap, like this is what's happening, because it doesn't feel like, even describing it, it may not feel like, well, how is this abuse? Like, how is what this person's doing abusive to you? So how have you found with your clients that this abuse manifested in negative ways in their life?
And that's why it's so tricky, because you can be in a relationship, you can be in a marriage, you can be in a long-term partnership. And in fact, oftentimes with covert, these are really long relationships. I just spoke to a woman who was in a marriage for over 43 years.
Wow.
And had no idea. Actually, in fairness, she said around after 20 years, she started kind of seeing stuff. But then it's, at that point, it's like you have kids. It's just tricky, what do you do? And a lot of people are like, well, I can tolerate it. It's not awful. But it slowly dims your light. It drains you of your energy, and you end up becoming someone who you don't recognize. And oftentimes people will start out as very social, extroverted people, and then they end up becoming more shut-ins and hermits and not wanting to leave their house because it's just too much.
Because they've been drained emotionally, energetically. Like, why does that end up happening?
Exactly. It's kind of like, this sounds dramatic, but death by 1,000 cuts or 1,000,000 cuts. It's not.
Oh my God. Did she read fucking Rachel Hollis's explanation on the divorce? That was her first thing when, first of all, in the beginning, Rachel was like, we're best friends. We just decided to break up. No big deal. We're choosing joy, blah, blah, blah. Okay. And then when people rejected that, then she started saying, we broke up because it was 1,000 little things that caused us to break up. Okay. So now that verbiage itself, the vocab of that, is now being used in this context to explain, oh, it's actually narcissistic abuse that they do to you on purpose to make you blah, 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 death by 1,000 cuts. It's very interesting that they're using that specific language, because that's how Rachel has described why they broke up. So, okay, I'm on board with how this conversation's going, that it might have already been pre-discussed in advance what the goals were. Let's frame Dave as a narcissist, once again, to make Rachel be scot-free and be the hero of her own life. Once more. Got it.
It's not that they hit you or they yell at you and tell you awful things, although that can be there too. You can have someone who's both covert and overt. But if they're highly covert,
how can you be both overt and covert? doesn't the basis of being overt mean that you're not being covert? Like, oh, you can be both. Like, okay, so anyone can be anything. So what's the point of even defining it then? She wouldn't know because she's a fucking singer / life coach, which is nothing.
All those little comments, little looks, little reactions over time that hypnotize you, basically, and brainwash you into seeing yourself a certain way. And oftentimes we get into these because we had some form of it in our childhood. You know, maybe it wasn't full blown, but maybe we had a parent who put their issues onto us, and we learned the dance of taking their issues and making it ours and taking responsibility for other people. Maybe we learned the dance of we're here to make our parents feel better. My life needs to be about other people. And so we take these things, and then when we meet someone, when we're dating, we don't even notice, but we feel this kind of comfortable familiarity to...
Which isn't that from, it's comfortably familiar because it reminds us of our family of origin. There's something about it that we understand. And I can't remember, because when I read your book, then I went on a tear. I can't remember if it was in yours or someone else's, that I also learned about how narcissists will use mirroring as a way to, I don't know, ingratiate themselves with you. This idea that you, maybe even the first time you met someone, you were just like, oh, they were okay. And then a month later, you were like,
You know, it's really funny how Rachel is saying, they mirror you, as if, again, she's making it seem like this group is like meeting together. All the narcissists have like a meeting place. They're like, okay, what tactic are you using to gaslight your, self-help mogul wife? As if that's like a thing. Like everyone's totally aware of being a narcissist, and they're going to find a way to gaslight you and hurt you purposely. I don't think that's how it works. Again, I am no professional, but they're not even taking it from a context of like, maybe it's not inherently, something they're doing on purpose. She's making it very clear, like, oh, they do this like to hurt you. Okay, I just fundamentally disagree with that. It's every single case of narcissism. And then the second part, what I was going to talk about is, what was the second part I was going to say? Let me go back just a second. It'll refresh my memory. Hold on.
How narcissists will use mirroring.
Oh, mirroring. Okay, you know who the fuck teaches mirroring as a concept that is amazing and wonderful and gonna get you ahead in business? Tony fucking Robbins, your idol, Rachel. So now you're saying his tactics that he teaches people is actually narcissistic abuse tactics? Finally, we can agree on something there. But don't interview him on your podcast and say, oh my God, you're the best. I love you, Tony. If that's, now you're saying that that's an abuse thing. Let's go back and change the past then and start to put some acknowledgement out there that maybe you led people astray by sending them his way. How about that? Because I know for a fucking fact that he teaches mirroring, because I remember hearing the lesson thinking that sounds manipulative to me. Come on.
You, I don't know, ingratiate themselves with you. This idea that you, maybe even the first time you met someone, you were just like, oh, they were okay. And then a month later, you were like, oh my gosh, this is my dream woman. This is my dream man. We're so aligned. We have everything in common. And it's actually because they're mirroring. They know how to sort of say, oh my gosh, I love that movie too. I love books too. I do these things too. Can you talk us through that?
Definitely. And
Am I the only person who loves books? Am I the only reader?
Good point, because there's 3 phases with a narcissist that you go through. And the first phase is love bombing.
Which is also what cults do, by the way.
No, exactly. And
okay, I love you and I'm rooting for you. That's not love bombing. I love you and I'm rooting for you, person I've never met in my life. That's not love bombing. I'm going to love on you guys. I'm going to hug you guys at tour. Oh, I love I just love meeting all of you and hearing about your dreams. Okay. Tell me step 2. Is it charging them a fee to meet you?
don't know if you remember that part in my book. I saw a documentary, Holy Hell was the name of the documentary, about people who were in a cult for over 20 years.
Wow.
And I remember I
It's
was
nothing.
so struck. What I was struck by is the exit interviews. When these people were being interviewed, they were saying stuff that I was like, oh my gosh, like this is all, every single thing they said is how I felt and what I experienced. But I wasn't in a cult. I was in a relationship with a coach.
Right. Right.
So it is like it is like coming out of a cult, because you've been so brainwashed and gaslit, and you continue to be even after you've left the relationship or left the job or left your parents or, you know, whatever, that it really is like you have to, part of healing is going through this deprogramming, you know, phase, because you've got those tapes in your head, and especially the longer you're with someone like that. And that's why it's so damaging. That's why it's so much more than just selfish people.
So phase 1 is love bombing. What's phase 2?
Mm-hmm. Okay, so yeah, and what I was going to say is phase 1 is so powerful because the person, and this is more, you know, not like parents, but this is more like when you're dating someone, or even like a friend or a boss or something like that. So it's so important because that's when you in your mind determine who this person is. And at the very beginning, they do a lot of mirroring, like you said. And so they will basically be everything you have been dreaming of. And love bombing looks different ways.
Okay, so let's talk about Kez for a second, because I see like people are like, oh yeah, not only does Rachel like, oh, I'm going to watch documentaries about hiking now. Oh, just so happens my boo thing hikes and whatever. Oh, just so happens my boo thing's a tour manager for Shawn Mendes. All of a sudden, I'm going on a tour for the first time. And also, I'm going to learn how to songwrite. And also, I'm going to go to Nashville and, you know, meet up with these songwriters and do like a little thing. Now she's involved. She's interviewing songwriters, you know, from all over. She's interviewing Logic for some reason, for no logical reason. Okay, so she's taking on his traits, right? And she's doing that. But also, isn't she sort of trying to make him into something too, a little bit? Like, what was I going to say? It was like them going both ways. Like she's being influenced by him, by mirroring him. So phase 1, but phase 2 is like, I'm going to start adding him into content. I'm going to make him into the Dave Hollis that I had before. And like now sharing all these, you know, stories about them and him being in vlogs. And it's like, she's just making him into what she wants too. So it's two-sided. And so is Kez the narcissist, or is she the narcissist? Because she's the one mirroring him, it seems. But then she could also be like, well, he forced me to do all the things he wants to do because he wants me on his side. So again, it's just like, no matter what, she's innocent. If that makes sense. Of course. Well, that's the whole point. She's innocent no matter what.
Some people will be like, well, you know, he or she didn't shower me with, you know, presents and dates and flowers and that stuff. But I said to that woman, I said, because that covert narcissist could tell that would turn you off. So he became the person that he knew, very, very perceptive. That's why I say, like, kind of the intelligent side of narcissism. They can easily pick up what you want, and they can often seem very scripted. Like the way, if you really like look back and observe people and you aren't enmeshed emotionally into it. So in the love bombing phase, they are this perfect person for you. And so whatever happens after that stage, you see them through those eyes.
Right.
When they promise to show up for an appointment, you know, with you, and they don't show up and they have an excuse, you excuse them because you still see them as that person at the beginning. And you're like, oh, okay. And their excuses always make sense. So you're like, okay, well, that makes sense. And then it happens again. You know, you're supposed to meet for dinner. They don't show up, or they show up half hour late, you know, and it's disrespectful to you, but you don't see it that way because you so want that person
Right.
that you originally experienced.
And
that-
you said, I think you said in the book, sorry, I got really excited, that if you are a people pleaser, that you are everything I'm thinking of for this. Doesn't sound very nice, but like you're prime for narcissistic abuse because everything about your people-pleasing tendencies, that was something that was given to you in childhood. Now you've navigated it into your adult life. And I'm trying to think of a nice way to say that you're bait. They can see, they can pick up really easily who they can manipulate and who wouldn't take it.
Exactly. And that's, there's a chapter in my book called...
Again, first of all, Debbie is like, oh, he could have been a psychopath, just throwing around these, diagnoses as if these are real things that a person off the street could just say, like, oh, this is it's like the Shane Dawson effect. Oh, this person's a sociopath. This person's a psychopath. Let's just call everyone what they are because they pissed me off or did something that was, not the norm or whatever. But it sounds like, again, like she's really making it seem like these people are predators and are searching for weak people pleasers to marry and pretend they love you, and then as soon as they get you to sign the marriage certificate, then all of a sudden they're gonna never show up to their time slot appointments with you. They're gonna just start gaslighting you immediately and make you mentally insane just because that's what they get off on. It's like, that's what this is making me feel like they think it is, as instead of a complex issue, a response in some way, if you can even label it as what it is. Like they did say in the beginning, getting diagnosed with narcissistic personality disorder is very difficult. Yes, it is very difficult because it's not something that you can go, oh, well, do you have these two traits? Oh, you care about your appearance and sometimes you're in a bad mood. Oh, you must be a narcissist. Okay. So there's so many caveats to all of this, but the way that they're making it seem and the way that Rachel is leading this conversation is like, men that do, basically, like she said, it's always men, they do this, okay, in this conversation at least, because I think she's trying to insinuate that it's Dave, in my opinion. Like, men will go and find that person that will just be so innocent, and then they'll attack you because they know that you're weak. It's like, is that what it is? Or are you attracted to someone who's got narcissistic traits? Because that's also part of it. And how about you also address that side? And maybe she does. But sometimes, and myself included, like, I believe my mom has narcissistic traits. I'm also attracted to people who have narcissistic traits for certain reasons. So how much of that is my responsibility to go and look for people who are treating me well as opposed to treating me in a way that I'm used to? Like, as she is like, motivated and to change into whatever, she very much takes away all the blame for anything that goes bad in her life, but takes on all of the positive. I did that myself when it's good. And it fucking pisses me off. I'm sorry. Also, just a caveat, I do have a meeting in 25 minutes. It shouldn't take long, so I can pause the stream. Actually, I'm going to end the stream and I'll open a new one for part 2. If you can't make it, I understand. It's totally cool. But I have to take a call and I have to do it, I think, on Zoom. So just FYI. Sorry, it's a little bit hectic over here with vacation and working. But we'll make it work, okay? I won't leave you hanging. This will be completed today. Just so you know. Okay, back to it.
Traits of a target. Because there is a certain type of person that narcissists often get with, and they tend to be very giving, very trusting, people pleasing, maybe not healthy boundaries. So
beautiful, skinny, loves Nirvana, just something like that,
Yeah, someone who is trusting wouldn't expect someone would blatantly lie to them, and someone who's caring. And then also because a narcissist wants someone who will make them the center of their world, and they will sacrifice whatever for them. So actually often in the love bombing phase, sometimes they'll test you. This is can be a common thing too, where they'll kind of test how far will this person go for me? How much will they sacrifice for me? Then they know they've got you for years. And especially if you're someone who has been raised to serve and to help and to nurture. And then often the covert type will use their emotions to manipulate you. Like there was a girl who I spoke to who whose brother had died, and they were really close. So the first anniversary of his death was coming up. So that's a really big deal for her. And
could this get any closer to Rachel's story? Like, could it be any more obvious?
suddenly her boyfriend became depressed for no reason on that day. So now she's a caring person. She knows she's grieving for her brother, but there's this guy that she loves and cares about who is depressed for no reason. So she makes her day about him and taking care of him, because when you're a naturally caring person, that's what you do for people you love. You know,
right.
These aren't bad traits. These are beautiful traits.
Wait, what?
But it's just sad. Like I think there's a sweet naivety about these people, that's including myself, that come from a genuine place of love and wanting connection. And what you learn is a covert narcissist is actually not interested in connection and harmony. They're interested in being in control and having you as a supply. And if you stop giving to them as their supply, that's when the third, and I'll go back to what the second is, the third stage happens, which is the discard.
Hey guys, it's Rach breaking into this conversation real quick because
Hello?
I could already tell just a few minutes in with Debbie that this was going to be a really popular podcast episode. And I figured that you guys might have other questions. You might want to take a deeper dive, or maybe there's specific topics that we haven't covered. And Debbie?
I want to take a deeper dive into Debbie's singing career, actually. That's the only thing I really care about diving into with Debbie. I miss a point there, and I don't necessarily want to go back, but like, she was talking about someone who lost their brother. Okay, relatable, obviously, to Rachel. Now, who is depressed for no reason? The woman? Because why would she not be depressed? I don't get it. And then also, what does that have to do with a narcissist? I did not understand that whole interaction whatsoever, except to establish that Rachel also lost her brother. That's the only thing I heard about that. I don't get that. And I think the reason she's like, this is going to be popular is because she's obviously winking that she's going to be talking about Dave here. And that's why we all listen to anything. That's why that relationship, when to leave a relationship podcast did so well, because everyone wants the tea. So, okay, I guess that's why she's doing this on purpose. Obviously, we already knew that. It's clickbait, but I don't think it's accomplishing what she thinks it's accomplishing. I'm confused. The boyfriend was not depressed or was depressed? Oh. Wouldn't she... I mean, if my partner lost their like a brother, I would be probably sad for them too. I don't know, depressed is probably the wrong word, but like, I don't get it. Someone had empathy? Oh, how dare they? I don't get it. I'm confused. Whatever. Okay, moving on.
Has a wealth of information, whether it's dealing with narcissism, covert narcissism, how to co-parent.
I feel like that's a natural thing. I would be sad too. I don't know. Maybe I'm wrong. Who knows?
With a narcissist, she's coached and written about it all. So if you have questions,
okay.
I'm thinking maybe we should do a second follow-up episode with her as our guest. Call the hotline. The number 737-400-4626. We can make your question totally anonymous. You don't have to leave your name. But if there's something you'd love her to answer or take a deeper dive on, let us know.
Hey, Hey, Rachel. This is a question for Debbie. What's your favorite Nutella recipe? And also, have you ever written a song about dolphins? If so, I would love to hear it live on the pod. Have a great day. Other than that, please, no more talking. Goodbye. That's my request.
We'll turn it into another episode. That's 737-400-4626. I want to touch on this really quickly because I also found this fascinating in the book. The idea that a covert narcissist will find a way to sabotage every big thing that's not about them. So if it's your birthday, if it's a vacation.
Okay, here's another thought about this. Now that we're talking about Kez again. Kez finished the Everest climb. Rachel did not finish the Everest climb. Is she now on a rampage to destroy Kez because he didn't stop for her, even though when she did Rachel did the Everest climb with Dave, she threatened to leave him behind if he didn't get his ass walking up the mountain. And Dave did get his ass going and walk up the mountain. So he finished and Rachel finished back in 2019. This time around, just last week, before the hurricane happened, her and Kez did the same exact climb. She only got halfway up. Now, apparently she talked about that in the Alabama Rach Talk Live, and the person who went said that she did admit that she has competition issues with Kez or with people in general, which, okay, that's a good admission. I wasn't there to hear what she said, so I can't speak to what, if that's even true. But yeah, I wonder if that was a turning point. Like, Kez left her, and then he even posted about it, which I think was maybe on her end, like, to make up for it perhaps, because he hasn't posted her at all except for tour dates for Rach Talk. And maybe she's like, well, the least you can do is post me on Instagram. Because again, maybe she's pissed now. Maybe she's like, fuck you. Now I'm going to figure out how to make you look bad. Maybe this is even about Dave. Maybe this is about Kez. But the thing is, because they're not specific and it's all vague and it's all supposed to be like, again, wink, wink, here's like where I'm coming from, you're left to speculate about who the fuck she's talking about at any given time.
If it's have trained for your first marathon, it's something that you're trying to do, but it's not about them, that they will sabotage it. Can you touch on that?
Definitely. And that's one of those nuances you don't notice, and you wouldn't think to link that to narcissism. But like, for instance, I was with someone for a while, and I looked back, and every birthday I end up crying, and I didn't know why. There wasn't something obvious, but it was kind of like there were little things, like they would, they gave me a gift and I was grateful. And gift giving is weird from them too, because it's like so out of touch.
The gift giving thing shows up. Is it because they don't want someone else to be celebrated? Why does that happen?
Yeah, it's basically comes down to, this is not about me.
Yeah.
And this needs to be about me. So I will turn it around, and I will make you feel bad for not saying thank you enough, or not having an expression on your face that was big enough for what they deserve, for all they did to go find this lotion from the Dead Sea that you never asked for and don't but they're just like so amazed with themselves and needs you to know like how they went to the ends of the earth to get you that special lotion in a kiosk at the mall,
Right. Well, and I think it's important to say too, you're in your own experience, you're talking about remembering birthdays where you ended up crying, but I also love the example you gave of someone who their partner got sick, I'm using air quotes, but it's like doing things that it's covert, that you wouldn't understand that they had control of in that moment. And so you're like, oh, they're sick and I need to take care of them, even to the detriment of my own self or this family vacation or this big work thing I'm doing. Yeah. That feels really important to touch on too.
Definitely.
Wait, what? Sick? Who is sick? The boyfriend or her? Hold on. I got to go back on this one. I'm sorry. I'm missing the context because it's so buried under like layers of I don't know what. I don't know who she's talking about. There's so many possibilities. I'm confused. Okay.
Stand that they had, but I also love the example you gave of someone who their partner got sick, I'm using air quotes, but it's like doing things that it's covert, that you wouldn't understand that they had control of in that moment. And so you're like, oh, they're sick and I need to take care of them, even to the detriment of my own self or this family vacation or this big work thing I'm doing. Yeah. That feels really important to touch on too.
So someone pretends to be sick. Isn't that Rachel? Wouldn't that be the one? Like she's at the Paul McCartney concert and she thinks she's having a panic attack, and so she has Kez leave, even though she says that he was fine with it, he wanted to leave. Is that what we're talking about here? Or are we talking about when they went to Hawaii and Rachel was sick actually, but then she wouldn't say sick, right? Because Rachel was sick when her and Dave went to Hawaii together, and he was reading the first transcript of Girl Wash Your Face, and he was really upset about it. for obvious reasons, I think, because it made him look like a total asshole. And then he drank a lot of vodka, he said, and got, drunk and wasn't a good father at that time or a good partner. But she was sick. So I'm so confused. So I don't know. I'm trying to like put it onto something, like who is sick? The boyfriend, the husband, her, like which one?
Definitely. Yeah. Anything that is about you, they will sabotage, but they will always look fantastic to other people. I'll use myself as an example. I had just had surgery, and it was like day surgery where I go under anesthesia, and then I'm picked up that night and taken home. So the person I was with, the covert narcissist, picked me up and took me home. And you're like all out of it, and you're still in pain, and you're drugged up. And I remember laying in bed, and then he said, I really need to talk to you about something that's affecting me. I was like, oh, okay. And I can laugh now. Like, he was just like telling me that, he went out of his way to pick me up and bring me home. And I just didn't seem that grateful.
Oh my God.
Literally like drugged up. I still, I couldn't, watching TV, all I could watch is the Andy Griffith show because everything else was too fast. It's just weird stuff. And then I would hear him go downstairs, and then talk to family. They're like, oh my gosh, you're so good to her. You're taking such good care. And he was like, oh, well, I care about her so much. I just want her to be okay. And, you're just like, what the heck? But yeah, when you're sick, when you've had surgery, when you have, anything like that, they will make you feel bad for it. And the more covert they are, they won't ever say this to you, but through looks they give you, through giving you the silent treatment, through passive aggressive actions that they do, you get the message that something's wrong with you. You're too needy. I actually remember, it's weird because this one relationship I was in, my sister reminded me the other day that when we were first together, she was confused and concerned, but wasn't sure if she should be concerned because everything else looked so good. He was basically telling her that he was training me to be tougher when I'm sick. Yeah.
Whoa.
And to learn to take care of myself and not rely on other people. And that I had been pampered too much as a child. And so he was here to help me with that. So
okay. Not saying that that's right at all, but could that also just be a belief that somebody has? Again, like the same thing with the day surgery. Like, couldn't that one instance just be something that they believed in that moment, and that they were being, kind of a brat about, perhaps, or genuinely felt like, hey, I've done all this today and you're yelling at me or whatever, but they're on drugs and they don't mean it? Like, couldn't that just be a one-off experience? Why is it being, oh, this is a sign that this is like someone who wants to hurt you deeply and wants to take advantage of you? And like, these are just little examples from one woman's life. And also, she made it seem like, oh, well, the victims of narcissism are like the sweetest, most kind people in the world. Okay, that's one option. Or it could just be that, you are also possibly narcissistic. I feel like two narcissistic people together probably could also work. So I just don't find it fair to be like, oh, people who are mean are narcissistic personality disorder havers. Diagnose them right now. And then the victims of them are 100% perfectly did nothing wrong in any situation, in any fight. They are victims no matter what. That's what it seems like in this case. Now, maybe I'm going too far over the edge, but like, there could be a bunch of reasons why there's a fight between two people on a surgery. Maybe you're just being a jerk. I don't know. I don't think, maybe it's not that deep sometimes. Maybe it is, but maybe it's not. And I think putting this into people's heads, like if every person doesn't take care of you the way you need to be taken care of at that time, somehow, you're the victim of abuse. I think that's a little strong, personally. I'm not saying it couldn't be abuse, but is it every time? In that instance that I just heard, I think that could be interpreted 3,000 different ways, personally.
It's where it's like stuff where it messes with your head. Because I could look back on my childhood. It makes me so angry now because my mom was so beautiful, like such a beautiful mom. And he tried to change that narrative over the years. So I started to look at her as like, oh yeah, she did pamper me a lot. She did help me when I was sick. She really did like stop everything to help me get better. And that made me not tough. And I'm so glad I have him in my life now to teach me how to be tough. So, you know, you start also, I will say another trait of a target is we are self-actualizing. We're people that generally want to grow and we don't want to blame other people for our stuff. And so,
okay, again, I would fundamentally, oh, hold on, I gotta get the door.
Things
Sorry.
is like a teachable.
Stand by. Hold on. Okay, I'm back. All right, let's continue. I forget what I was saying, but okay, the same way that they're describing narcissists as like this type of person who does these XYZ things, now they're describing targets as this very specific thing. I don't think that's fair either, because it's like a target doesn't necessarily mean like she's saying like, oh, we just want to self-actualize and we just want to like do better for our life. Yeah, what that would be insane. I am in her neighborhood, or her old neighborhood. But you know what I mean? Like, it's not every victim looks the same. Not every narcissist looks the same. So this is just weird. Just weird. Anyways, continue.
For me to grow, because I assumed and I trusted, because I'm a good person, because I'm not crazy, you know, I assumed and I trusted that this person loved me.
Says you. That's what every narcissist thinks too, that they're perfect and not crazy. So maybe you're the narcissist. Obviously, everyone thinks they're the good person. There is no such thing as good versus evil. It's one person thinking they're good versus the other person thinking they're good. Okay, Debbie, keep going, dolphin lady.
Like I loved them, and I would never treat someone like that. So that's what I mean. It's like so many little death by 1,000 cuts.
Yes.
You know,
yes.
Over time.
Yeah. The idea, I mean, it's that gaslighting again of warping your perception of something really beautiful, which was your relationship with your mom or the way that you were raised, or making something it's not, so that because you are the kind of person that will internalize and kind of think through and try and unpack and try and know yourself better, you'll just go spin out in your own mind about like, well, am I this way? Like, oh my gosh, that wasn't my intention, but I guess I could see how it would come across that way. And I think you said this more than once in the book, that it's when you feel crazy. You feel like, what? Something's wrong, but I don't know what's wrong. And I can't really put my finger on it. And nobody else sees anything wrong. So there must not be anything wrong.
One thing I'll say too, like, it was Steven who just passed by. He's right there. You want to do a shout out, Steven? He didn't respond. When I started dating Steven, like, that was sort of around the time, well, before, right, there he is. Before I even really started to notice things about my mom in our relationship, like we started talking about things slowly over time, and he would say like, yeah, that's not really nice of what she did, and I would defend her and go, no, it's perfect, she's the best mom ever. But over time, having an outsider hear the type of stories I was telling, he was like, oh, you know, or friends, not even boyfriend, but like friends would also be like, oh, that's weird, or oh, she said that to you. And I don't think they meant to narcissistically make my relationship with my mom worse. It was a genuine reaction to something I was telling them, and then I went to therapy and worked on it. Like, I think that is another alternative. Like, someone says, yeah, the way that you said that about face reveal, it's dream. Just kidding. So yeah, if someone were to take this advice, it would be like discredit all people saying anything about a story you're telling about your past. And that's not safe either, because that could be good advice coming from someone who's not a narcissist, you know? Anyways, okay, I'm gonna have to go in like 1 minute, so I'll play a little bit more.
I'm really hopeful that there are people who are listening who are like making that connection for the first time, that this is what's happening. Going back to that first phase, you have the love bombing. What then would come after that before the potential discard?
So the second phase is the devaluing, demeaning phase, which that can last for years and decades. And the thing that's tricky about covert narcissists is you have what's called intermittent reinforcement. This is what keeps you in these relationships for a long time. So you have demeaning and devaluing experiences and situations and Christmases and birthdays and times when you're sick. And you have all those things, but it's not all awful. So you also have cards that are very loving. You also have times where you're with them and you're laughing and you're watching a movie together and you're enjoying yourself. You have times where they say kind.
Okay, and I'll end it here for now. We'll come back after I do this meeting. This is something that Rachel said in the live stream where she was that precipitated. Is that the right word? I don't know. Toiletgate, like the thing that set it off, where the woman said you're unrelatable and got her all crazy. And it's made Toiletgate happen. So the actual live stream, the one we just watched last week, she said, because someone said, why did you and Dave present yourself as a happy couple? And Rachel said, well, because we were a happy couple. We are best friends. Of course, we're not going to show you all of the broken pieces and all that. Like, duh, you're not stupid, are you? Come on, you're smarter than that. Like, we're not going to, show up to the Christmas party and tell people we're mad at each other, even though their whole business and brand was about how authentic they both were together and how much they were telling everyone everything about everything, which is bullshit. Obviously, she said it verbatim in that live stream. So this, again, I think she said, hey Debbie, songwriter who loves dolphins, I want to paint Dave in this light and I want to paint me in this light. Let's get together and record a podcast, and then we can do that. Can you help me? Yeah. And I think that's what this is, because it's so closely related. Like, that's, Dave was a good guy, and so therefore she can retain the image of, oh, I presented a positive, truthful account of our relationship, but then in reality, behind the scenes, he was narcissistically making my life miserable. That's why I had the divorce. Therefore, I'm off scot-free, and I'm clear of having any blame. And that's, I think, what this part is. So on that note, I'm going to go off now, and I will be back very shortly, and I will... we won't do the whole countdown and stuff. We'll just start right from where we are, which is minute 43. Okay, peace out. Thank you very much. I'll see you soon. Bye.